I paid bills at home, but mom moved her friend and kids into my room. So I left, and now she's begging me back. I am living at home at 23 isn't exactly what I had planned for my life, but it worked out for the most part. I wasn't freeloading or anything. I paid rent, covered the electricity bill, and even paid for my mom's phone plan. It's not like I was just lying around eating snacks and playing video games. Honestly, the deal was pretty good. I had my own space, got home-cooked meals, and could focus on my freelance work without worrying too much about big expenses. I had even turned my room into a mini studio for my content creation gigs, which I was hoping would take off soon. Everything was fine until my mom's best friend, Kelly, moved in with her 2 kids. I wasn't thrilled about it, but I understood the situation. Kelly was going through a nasty divorce, and her husband, according to my mom, was a complete jerk. They needed somewhere to stay, and our house was their best option. I thought it would be temporary. Just a few weeks until Kelly got back on her feet. At first, they stayed in the guest room, and it wasn't a big deal. Sure, the kids were a little loud, but I just closed my door and put on my headphones. It wasn't ideal, but I could manage. The guest room wasn't huge, but it was enough for Kelly and her kids to crash in for a while. I figured that was the arrangement, and I didn't give it much thought. That changed fast. One day, I came home after running some errands and noticed something weird right away. My door was open, and I could hear kids laughing inside. When I walked in, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My bed was covered in toys, my desk chair was moved, and one of the kids was on my computer. My studio setup, my expensive microphone, lighting, and camera was shoved to the corner of the room like it didn't matter. Kelly's kids were running around like they owned the place, and all my stuff was just out of place. I yelled, "What the hell is going on?" Probably louder than I should have, but I was in shock. My mom walked in and immediately started scolding me, like I was the one out of line. She said, "Calm your tits. It's not a big deal. The kids needed more space, and your room is the biggest. It's only fair." Fair? My room? The one I was paying rent for? I told her I wanted them out of my room immediately, but she brushed me off like I was being ridiculous. "They need to be comfortable," she said. "You're being selfish." Selfish? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This wasn't about comfort. It was about respect. My room wasn't just a place I slept in. It was where I worked. My studio setup had cost me over $3,000, and it wasn't something I could just throw into a corner and ignore. I explained all of this, but my mom wasn't having it. "They're just kids," she said, "and they want to play on your computer. Stop making such a fuss." I shut that idea down immediately. "No way are they touching my equipment," I said. "If anything happens to it, I'm screwed." That's when Kelly chimed in. She said, "Oh, come on. They're just curious, and you can't blame them. Maybe if you weren't so uptight, they'd listen to you." I was stunned. Uptight? I wasn't uptight. I was trying to protect my stuff I worked hard for. I told her flat out that the kids weren't allowed to touch my things, and if they did, I'd hold her responsible. That didn't go over well. She called me selfish too, and my mom agreed with her. It was like I was suddenly the bad guy in my own home. After that first blow up, things in the house got tense. I couldn't believe my mom and Kelly were siding against me, especially when I was the one paying rent. But I figured they'd realize how ridiculous this was after they calmed down. The next day, I tried talking to my mom again. I explained how much my studio equipment meant to me, not just financially, but professionally. Freelancing isn't just some hobby. It's my job. Without my gear, I couldn't do my work, and replacing it would take me months, maybe even years to save up for. I told her, "Mom, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but this isn't fair. I'm paying rent for that room, and you just gave it away without even asking me." Her response, "You're being dramatic. It's my house, and I decide what happens in it." I was stunned. "Your house? I pay rent. I'm contributing here, not just squatting for free." She shrugged like it didn't matter. "The kids need space. Your brother's room is too small, and your sister's room is full of her things. Besides, your room has all that fancy stuff, and they like it better." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My siblings, both 15, had rooms that were perfectly fine. Sure, my brother's room was smaller, but it was big enough for 2 kids. My sister's room was almost as big as mine. And honestly, she barely used it since she was always out with her friends. But my mom wouldn't even consider it. "The kids love your room because it's cooler," she said. "All your fancy gadgets make it more fun for them." Fun? This wasn't about fun. My room wasn't some playhouse for Kelly's kids to mess around in. It was where I worked, where I relaxed, where I lived. I told her, "If they break anything, are you going to replace it? Because I can't afford to." That's when Kelly chimed in again. "Oh, stop being so paranoid.